that's great work, is that you can have it on your wall and it's not a trend, it's not kitschy, it's something that you should truly find beauty in regularly.
Hey, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Palette. I'm your host, Whitney Rosenson, owner of Art Dimensions, a fine art leasing and sales business in Los Angeles. And I am thrilled to be talking today with Melissa Wenke, an excellent abstract painter on the Art Dimensions roster. Thank you so much for joining me here today, everybody. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Whitney. Thank you so much for having me and asking me to do this.
Of course. Welcome to the Art Dimensions podcast. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to chat with me.
Of course.
And I'm really excited for everyone listening, including myself, to just learn more about you and your work and your whole creative process. So did you always want to be an artist?
I don't think it was ever like a decision that I made where I was like, I'm going to be an artist. I came from a family that was, I was very much exposed to art growing up. There was tons of art on our walls growing up. My parents were in the art business and I was always very creative. I think that when I started to actually paint was after college. And then I kind of just leaned in and I ended up, that's when I started having a studio, which was, gosh, that was like, 11 years ago. And I've had a studio since. So I think it's really something where the act of doing it kind of makes you it. And then you don't really have a choice after that because, it's something you love so much to do in the process. And I think as you grow as an artist, you realize you never really had a choice, but the way you work it into your life and how much of your life it takes and what, in what capacities it takes changes. I never really made that decision, but I think I've always considered myself an artist.
Yeah. You've had your studio for how long now?
Had a studio consistently now for 11 years, up to maybe 6 years ago or 7 years ago was when it just moved into my home for the first time, which was a big deal. So that was amazing. There's nothing like having a kitchen and a shower near your studio.
Well, I work from home too, so it's very convenient in certain ways. That's great. What's your favorite part of being an artist today?
And you're younger, you really work, or at least I did. I mean, I worked constantly. I mean, I was always in my studio at Pico Studios. I was surrounded by amazing artists like Noah Davis and Vanessa Beecroft, just really great artists who I admired so much. And I was the youngest, least experienced, so I would work constantly. And I think at that time, you have different ideas of how you want to be perceived as an artist or where you want this to go. Throughout my career, I've had different favorite parts of being an artist. I think now for me is, as a couple of years ago, I kind of went internal in the sense of got very kind of frustrated with just the art business itself. So working with people like you and people who do what you do to represent you is great, because then you're allowed to kind of keep your process and not have to do both. I think that can be really destructive for an artist at certain points to do.
You mean to create and then also the business side?
I think, I've been an artist. I considered myself a professional artist for like 11 years. So, it's ebb and flows. And I think it's also great to see all these other things that, as a creative person, I think you're an artist, but there's so many other things that you can also do. And I feel very much against this idea where it's like, if you're an artist, then that's all you have to do. But when I was younger, I thought that was the way to go. But I think now my favorite part of being an artist is the same thing that it's always been. It's just in a different way. But being in the studio, the actual process, the intimacy, that it's something that's your own, that nobody can take that from you. It's the power of a hobby in a way. But if you could make money from it, that's great. But just the feeling of working with the materials, I'm very tactile, and those quiet moments, like looking at the work that you've created. And I think as you grow as an artist, understanding when to stop is that great thing that as a young artist, you never know that that's actually something that you're trying to get to. But
Okay.
as you grow, you realize that knowing when to stop is like the greatest talent you can have. So, staring and sitting with your work and looking at it, I think is my favorite part, and actually doing it. As you know, I don't love to talk about my work. There's never a particular, like Robert Motherwell said, the only kind of painting you can plan is a bad painting. So I very much love the feeling of really being in the studio, working your arm and kind of getting into that zone where that's what you're doing.
Okay, I get that. And then I want to ask you, because you just mentioned when you were younger, but about this, how do you deem a painting finished?
But since forever, I have always been a painter who believes in working on multiple pieces at once. I believe that if you work on multiple pieces at once, then no one piece can push you around. I don't just go in and be like, okay, I'm going to work on this one painting. It's definitely a process over time where you realize I'm done, but I'm usually working, like if I do a commission, I recently did a big commission and it was for one painting, but to get to that one painting, I painted 24 paintings.
Oh, wow.
I definitely believe in working on multiple works. And I think that knowing when to stop yourself and move to another work and kind of step back is really important. So there's really no defining moment where it's like, this is done. I think that's part of, the difference between being a painter and an artist. So you grow as a painter, and then when you understand your work to a certain point, you become an artist. And that's how I know things are done, is when I've just kind of taken that stock where, you're balancing it out, and then I look at everything and it's kind of just this weird, there's really no rhyme or reason, but you just know.
That's awesome. Do you ever get painter's block?
As an artist, you work your arm. And I don't think people really think about that often. Like, you don't just walk into a studio and start painting. You do it consistent. I've always painted every day until like up to 2 years ago when I took like a year break. But I get blocked in a way that it's like, I think I get more fatigued with a certain medium. So
Okay.
I will often go from painting, I'll do a big span of time where I'm just painting, and then I'll go into collage. And collage is really where I find the truth of my inspiration. That's where everything comes from for me, is the aesthetic of collage. It's what I started with. I used to do it when I was a kid. I just love that feeling. So I think that just the same way I paint multiple things at one time, I never have really felt blocked in the sense I can't do this. I always just look at it as like, you need to work your arm more. And you need to work your arm to the point where you're stop thinking about what you're doing, I guess. Yeah.
Makes
So I
sense.
often go from painting, like if I do, small works that are like, especially recently, I've been doing much smaller works. I do a bunch of small works that are just painting. To relieve that kind of fatigue, I'll move to collage. But
Got
yeah,
it.
I think, we all kind of get sick of what we make and sick of our aesthetic sometimes.
So just so people know, your work is on the Art Dimensions website, which is artdimensionsonline.com. You can see the collages and the paintings there under Melissa Wenke. But do you think creativity is something you're born with or something you're taught?
I think we're all born with creativity. That would be tragic if we weren't. It's sad to me. I have 4 nieces and nephews, and I think about quiet time often. I think about that's when creativity really grows, really fosters. And I feel sad for this generation. You never have that moment of quiet. Like everybody's always looking at something, doing something, going somewhere. I have to be there. I have to go there. I just left. I'm on my way here. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy. Or I have to look at this or somebody's account or whatever.
Or they're on the iPad and
Something.
technology.
Everybody is shoving activities down people's throats. I always found when I was a kid, I never was bought a lot of stuff. We used to have to make our own Halloween costumes, things like that. But
that's so cool.
I never was. I've never bought a Halloween costume in my life, but I believe that having those times where you have to figure something out to entertain yourself. I think we all have that creativity. I think it's about understanding your creativity. Even as an adult, I think there's a lot of people who are challenged with that. I think I've heard from many people, well, I'm just not a creative person. And I
Yeah.
find that to be sad. Yeah. So I think you're definitely born with it. I'd be worried for our state of existence if we weren't.
I think it's something you're born with too. I think it needs to be fostered and it needs to be nurtured. So we're on the same page with that. I
Yeah.
do think so. You do your paintings, you do your collage. What's one creative project that taught you something fundamental about yourself?
I think there has been a couple moments in my career that have taught me pivotal things about who I am as an artist. But I think I did a lot of textile work for a while there, learned. I guess there are two major things. When I started a textile operation kind of company that was doing like different types of using my work on textiles and in different ways, lifestyle goods or whatever you want to call it, I definitely had a moment where, it was going well, but I had to, it's one of those lessons in life, know thyself. And I learned that was like the first time I really learned where it was like, I'm not somebody who should be in manufacturing. I'm purely a creative person. And it was a lot, even though I create work pretty quickly and I have a lot of work, and I guess you can call the amount of work I have prolific because there is so much of it, as you know, and you've been here. Understanding, know thyself, know thy strengths, take that risk. And it's okay when it doesn't work out, because if you're confident enough in yourself, or not even confident, but clear enough in your mind and have those quiet moments to realize, you know what, this is not right for me. I'm not a manufacturer. I can't just transfer this over onto something. And creativity is something that I think as artists, like we love doing it so much that we think, oh, it's fine, I can totally do that. But it is a taxing thing. And then when you put it into business, it becomes something that really starts to take away that thing you love so much.
Takes
And
away the enjoyment. Yeah.
well, oh yeah, I mean, it takes away. You have people, we've discussed this before, people telling you, well, I like it, but I want it like this. And that really taught me to kind of cherish that I am just that creative and be okay with it and accept that and kind of stop in my tracks and be like, just accept that and take that as a life lesson. Second time was just commissions in general. Every time I do a commission, I say I'm never doing a commission again, because it is just so much. Everybody wants something so special, but people have a hard time understanding that what you've created is actually the most special because you created it out of nothing. Like you just decided to start working one day versus someone's paying me money, so I have to create this painting,
Right.
That's why I end up actually spending so much more time on commissions. Like it's insane. So I've learned those two projects, I think, really taught me something about myself. One, to protect my process and know that maybe being just an artist, like just because you are a painter doesn't mean that creativity doesn't overflow into so many areas and that you could have so many talents in different spaces.
Yes.
And I really learned that. That was one. And then the second is commissions, like kind of just giving respect to work from the past that you've made in the past and not feeling like everything new is going to be better, because that's not how it is.
Okay.
There's great works that all of us as painters or artists have that we did years and years ago that we don't look at, that if you pull out after years, you're like, wow, that's a really great. And I think that that's the second one, kind of realizing that every time you create something, it's in space and time, and to honor it and to not feel like just because somebody wants something special that it has to be recreated. And I've gotten to the point where now I'm just going to start lying to people. No, I'm just kidding. But like, where it's like, oh yeah, I just made this for you, because people love it. They just want to feel like it's special, but it is special.
Well, there's a certain respect, I think, for each piece that you need to have for each piece. So there's no reason why your fifth painting is less special than your 50th painting. That's what you're saying.
Totally. There's a lot of lessons. I mean, you learn a lot about selling art, about how people see art and how expensive it is to frame. And how my works are quite big. So I think there's a lot, but there's definitely the idea of know thyself and understand that like, it's okay if you're just a painter and you do something else. You could be just as incredible of a painter as, most of these artists out there right now. There's a few that I find to be amazing, but I also find there's a lot of crap out there now, because it's all about networking. And I think that spending that time in the studio is what's going to really make you that painter, that artist. But know thyself and don't discount your efforts because you may not be where somebody else is, or you may not be able to, monetize it in the same way. But give yourself credit for the creativity and understand that that is a huge deal, to just be able to be somebody who's able to paint, and see
Yes.
where else you can apply those skills. I mean, there's real skills that come with understanding how to do what we do.
So is that advice you would give to a new artist?
I would give a new artist advice: work every day, love your paintings, but have a job. If I had a child, I probably wouldn't stop them from being an artist, but I don't, everybody has their own path, but I definitely do believe that invest in your process, not your product, is what my advice is.
Mm.
Always invest in your process, not the product. When I was starting out, I could never afford canvas or anything. So I lived in Boyle Heights at a Pico Studios compound where artists lived, and it was very prestigious. Like I told you, I was the youngest, least experienced. My rent for the studio is $400 a month, and everything was based on the honor system. But
How many
I
artists were in that?
think it was like six. It was Matt Sheridan, Noah Davis, Khalil Davis, who produced Lemonade for Beyonce. I mean, really
Okay.
amazing. Aaron Curry was there. Really incredible artists were there, and I was youngest, least successful. Obviously, I didn't have a car. I had no money. I had nothing. So I would just paint on what I had, and then just paint over it, and then just keep going and learn how to not even gesso it, because I couldn't even afford gesso. So
Wow.
just paint through it and just kind of
Mhm.
go and detach from that product and just use your process. Understand, like I can look at most of my work and tell you exactly how I got that color, no matter how long ago I painted it.
So
So
amazing.
that's my advice for artists.
That's great advice. I mean, it's sound, it's great. What influenced your art when you began your career, and what influences it now?
Forever and ever, like during those times when I was at Pico Studios, I had no car. I had to go to traffic court in Beverly Hills, right next to Beverly Hills Library. And I went into Beverly Hills Library after, when I was waiting for the bus to take the bus from Beverly Hills at 5 o'clock p.m. to Boyle Heights.
Okay.
So that's like a 2.5 hour bus ride.
Yeah.
Um, and I went into the library and I was looking for a book, and I just picked up a book, and I don't know what drew me to it, but it turned out to be the collected writings of Robert Motherwell.
Mm.
I remember reading this book, marking it up and writing all my notes, and it just turned out to be like the most influential book to this day in my career. I never returned it to the library. My mom had to buy it for me for my birthday because I wouldn't return it. I mean, there's tons of artists who I love: Lee Krasner, so many artists that I think are amazing, and I love to read their writings, like really, 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 really great writings so many artists have done. I mean, you can read about, there's, the Jackson Pollock writings are crazy, and then I just blanked on his name, Jasper John's writings, just crazy things. But Robert Motherwell's writings would bring me to tears. I mean, his understanding of doodle and collage and understanding, it just felt like somebody was
Talking to
saying
you.
what, or not even talking to me, saying what was in my heart, the way that I felt about collage and how it moves as fast as the mind, and just so many things. Like, to be an artist is a luxury, which it really is. I mean, I had no money, but I felt like I was doing something I loved, and that was luxurious. So Robert Motherwell, to this day. My mom is an amazing artist. I remember when I was young, she came in my studio once when I first got my first studio, and she looked at a painting I did, and she goes, "It's getting there. It's like student work." And I cried for 2 days.
Oh my gosh.
But it was like great, because that's, you need people to tell you that kind of stuff.
Yeah, she was giving you her true. And did you change the
So
work after that? Did you repaint or?
I just kept painting. I painted. I mean, I would paint. It was like a shipping container essentially that I was living in. So it was freezing, and I was sleeping on a couch. I was dating a guy. It didn't work out, but he had said he'd give me this couch, and I kind of finagled it, being like, "Well, you said I was giving you a couch. I already hired movers, so you better be there," because I needed a place to sleep.
Right, right.
Um, I was always painting so much, and then I'd get sick, and then my mom, I'd have to go home to my mom's house or something, and rest up, and then I'd go back to the studio and just keep painting and painting, and always Noah Davis, who also is as pivotal. I used to sit with him in his studio at night, when we would, before a big show he would have. And I remember, we would smoke a joint and we would sit there and we'd look at his work. And he really taught me how to look at work and how to sit there and just be with your work.
Okay.
A lot of different painters, being in a studio atmosphere where you are actually, Pico Studios was the greatest gift ever given to me as an artist, because I was with such high level people in the sense that they were so gifted and so incredible. That was very influential. But Robert Motherwell, to this day, the book is next to my bed. I have, his whole, those sets that are like $500 that have every writing, every painting, everything that they've ever done.
Oh,
Like,
beautiful.
I have it all. So yeah, Robert Motherwell's amazing. I always tell people, young painters, always like read Robert Motherwell, how he talks about, small paintings are for tourists. And he just has such a way about him.
I mean, people hopefully will check out your work on my site, but your work is bold and the brush strokes are bold and your use of color is so, like, your work is so dynamic. And I think Motherwell's work is too. So I can see exactly why he was a
Thank
big
you.
influence for you. Well, if you could collaborate with one other artist, who would it be?
I don't know who it would be per se. Collaboration is a strange thing, and so I don't know exactly what that would be, but I think that I would definitely love to learn and collaborate with some sort of sculptor. I'm very interested in sculpture, and I
Okay.
think that some of the work that Eddie Martinez has done in sculpture has been some of the coolest. But so yeah, I don't know exactly who I'd collaborate with, but I definitely have a few artists right now who I think are super sick. I mean, unfortunately, I'm a huge snob and think that a lot of people who are getting recognition, the work is crap. It's crap work and it lacks development and it lacks, you should be able to see somebody in their work. I know if you have to explain the work to somebody, then you're doing it wrong.
And
So
that's
right
good
now,
advice for a new artist too.
yeah, I mean, my work is definitely energy based, as you know. I have a lot of energy and I hope
Yep.
people feel energy in my work.
Yes, definitely.
But I definitely think that there are some artists right now who reflect, real process. There's a real development there and you really see it. And I think that that's great.
Oh, I love that. You're so articulate, by the way. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you.
This has been such a pleasure. So, what do you hope people will get from your art?
I want somebody to have my work in their home and to see it, as life changes, things change in the outside world, things change internally. I want my work to travel with you as far as the energy, and you to always find something in it that gives you a sense of fulfillment. And doesn't necessarily need to make you happy,
Okay.
but I'd like it to always be something that contributes to the experience of being in wherever space you're in. I
Yep.
think that's great work. And as I was a kid, I remember they used to have these oils from this artist. I forget his name, but as a kid, I thought they were like, whatever. I was like, this is weird, whatever. But growing up, I saw as I grew, my understanding of this work grew and how beautiful it was grew. And I think that that's great work, is that you can have it on your wall and it's not a trend, it's not kitschy, it's something that you should truly find beauty in regularly.
Oh, yes, I so agree with that. Hopefully, that's the reasons behind purchases,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
it's a,
I feel like
oh,
we've talked about this and you are very you have like a heritage quality about your eye. You know great work.
thank
Uh,
you.
and we've known each other for so long, and I always told Melissa that, who, for everybody who doesn't know, is somebody who connected us, another
Yes.
Melissa.
Melissa
Um,
Levisi. Yes.
Melissa Levisi, who is incredible. Yeah, she's amazing. I always tell her, Whitney, because of, the lineage and how your mother was an art, and you really have a very high level understanding of art. And, we've walked around galleries or something before and we've kind of understand things, but I think we both have that same idea that this should not be something that you're buying because it's cute, or this should not be something that is going to not be something you want to have on your walls in 20 years. This should be something of a deep connection when you find a beauty in it. And it
Yes.
may not intentionally, the painter may not have intentionally put it there like that. And it may not actually be what you think it is in the painting. But if you've connected with it,
Yeah.
it moves you. It moves with you. Yeah.
So what do you mean moving with you?
Matisse once said some of the most colorful pieces of art are in black and white.
Oh, I've never
And
heard that. That's a great quote.
it's a great quote. I think that the idea that it moves with you through your life, through your,
Okay.
you always want it on your walls. It's something that's gorgeous. Like growing up, we had some Peggy Hopper prints in my home. And to this day, I have a Peggy Hopper on my wall that was in my childhood home. And it's work that is just, I might have a different relationship with it now because I'm an older person,
Right.
but it's grown with me. It's moved with me throughout my life. It's not something that I look at. Like, you remember those in the early 90s or whatever, those angels that were really popular with their, the two baby angel print
Oh, yes, yes,
poster that was everywhere. Remember that?
yes.
Like that to me is not moving with
She's Hawaiian, right?
Hawaiian artist. Yes.
I know her work.
And,
Yes.
I actually just became familiar with another artist that I definitely want to give a shout out to, because I find his work to be so incredible and just, really more incredible than a lot of artists that I love. His name is Moncho. He's an
I know.
LA-based artist.
Yeah,
He's incredible.
he is great. Yep.
Yeah, and I feel like that work moves with you. Every time you walk by, you have that same but different feeling. It's like love.
It's like a relationship with a lover.
It is. It's like
yeah.
sometimes you hate it, but you still love it.
Melissa, thank you so much. I really appreciate you talking with me. You gave our listeners a wonderful glimpse into your creative world. What is your Instagram so people can check it out?
Melissa Wenke, MELISSAWENKE.
Okay, so check it. And then there's the Art Dimensions Instagram, which is @ArtDimensions. So be sure to check those out. Check out Melissa's work at artdimensionsonline.com. If you have any questions or comments, you can email me through my website. And this was great. So Melissa, take care. And to everyone out there, take care. Happy creating.
Thank you. Yes. And bless up, everyone.